Welcome, dear friend. As you settle into this moment of peace, allow yourself to release the day's burdens. Let your breath slow, your body soften, and your mind gently open to these ancient wisdoms. These stories and teachings have been passed down through centuries, carrying the essence of tranquility, compassion, and understanding. May they guide you toward restful sleep and inner peace.
Part 1. The Foundations of Peace. The Story of the Empty Cup. A learned professor once visited a renowned Zen master seeking to understand the nature of enlightenment. The master invited him to sit for tea. As they settled, the professor began speaking at length about his studies, his theories, his understanding of Buddhism and philosophy. He spoke of the many books he had read, the lectures he had attended, the teachers he had studied under. The Zen master listened quietly, nodding occasionally, and began to pour tea into the professor's cup. He poured and poured, even as the tea reached the brim. He continued pouring as the tea spilled over the edge, running across the table, dripping onto the floor. Finally, the professor could no longer restrain himself. "Master, the cup is overflowing. No more will go in." The Zen master smiled gently and set down the teapot. "Like this cup," he said softly, "you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" The professor sat in silence, suddenly understanding. His knowledge, which he had worn like armor, was actually preventing him from receiving new wisdom. To learn, he first had to create space. To fill, he first had to empty. As you rest here now, consider your own cup. What fills your mind tonight? Worries about tomorrow? Regrets about yesterday? Endless thoughts circling like birds that cannot find a place to land? See if you can gently set these down, just for now. Empty your cup. Create space for peace to flow in. The teaching of impermanence. The Buddha taught that all phenomena are impermanent. Nothing lasts forever. This truth, called anicca in Pali, is one of the three marks of existence. At first, this teaching may seem melancholic. Everything we love will change. Everyone we cherish will eventually part from us. Even our own bodies and minds are in constant flux, never the same from one moment to the next. But impermanence is not only about loss, it is also about liberation. Because everything changes, no difficult situation lasts forever. The pain you feel today will transform. The anxiety that grips you now will loosen its hold. Even the darkest night eventually surrenders to dawn. A wise teacher once compared life to a river. If you try to hold on to the water, it slips through your fingers. If you try to stop it from flowing, you create stagnation and suffering. But if you simply observe it, appreciate it, allow it to flow, you can enjoy its beauty without attachment. As you prepare for sleep, notice how your breath flows, in and out, never stopping, always changing. Notice how thoughts arise in your mind like bubbles in water, appearing, floating, and dissolving. You don't have to hold on to anything. You can simply let it all flow, trusting in the natural rhythm of change. The Monk and the Scorpion. A monk was bathing in a river when he noticed a scorpion struggling in the water. Knowing it would drown, he cupped his hands and lifted it out. As he did so, the scorpion stung him. The pain caused him to drop the creature back into the water. Without hesitation, the monk reached down again to save the scorpion. Again it stung him. Again he dropped it. A student watching nearby called out, "Master, why do you keep trying to save that scorpion when it keeps stinging you?" The monk replied calmly as he once more reached for the drowning scorpion. "It is the nature of the scorpion to sting, but it is my nature to save. Should I change my nature because the scorpion does not change his?" This time, the monk used a leaf to lift the scorpion safely to the shore. This story teaches us about staying true to our deepest values while also being wise. Compassion does not mean allowing ourselves to be harmed repeatedly without learning. It means maintaining kindness in our hearts even when others act from their pain or confusion. It means finding skillful ways to help that honor both our safety and our compassion. As you rest tonight, can you extend compassion even to the difficult parts of yourself? The anxious part, the critical part, the restless part. These are like the scorpion, acting from their nature, doing what they think will protect you. Can you save them from drowning in struggle while also being gentle with yourself? The practice of loving kindness. In Buddhist tradition, the practice of metta or loving kindness begins with ourselves. This often surprises people who think spiritual practice should be about sacrificing for others. But the Buddha understood something profound. We cannot offer others what we do not possess ourselves. The traditional practice begins with these words, offered first to yourself. May I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease. Let these words settle in your heart. May I be safe, safe from inner and outer harm, from the harm of harsh self-judgment and the turbulence of anxiety. May I be happy, not through endless striving, but through accepting this moment as it is. May I be healthy in body, mind, and spirit. May I live with ease. May life flow naturally, without constant struggle. As this foundation of self-compassion is established, loving kindness expands outward like ripples on a pond, to loved ones, to neutral people, to difficult people, and eventually to all beings everywhere. But it starts here, with you, now, as you settle into rest. The teaching of silence. Two monks were traveling together when they came to a river with a strong current. At the bank stood a beautiful woman in an elegant kimono, clearly distressed about crossing. Without a word, the older monk lifted her onto his back and carried her safely across. Setting her down on the far shore, he and the younger monk continued their journey in silence. Hours passed. Finally, as they approached their monastery, the younger monk could no longer contain himself. "Brother, we have taken vows not to touch women. How could you carry that woman on your back?" The older monk looked at him calmly and replied, "I set her down hours ago at the riverbank. Why are you still carrying her?" How many burdens do we carry long after we needed to? How many conversations replay in our minds? How many slights do we nurse? How many mistakes do we revisit? The older monk's wisdom was not just in helping someone in need, it was in his ability to let go completely once the moment had passed. As you lie here preparing for sleep, notice what you might still be carrying. Is there something from today, or last week, or last year that you can set down now? Not forever, perhaps, but just for this night. Let sleep be the riverbank where you set down your burdens. The Buddha's teaching on worry. Before he became the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama was a prince who had everything the world could offer: wealth, beauty, youth, pleasure. Yet he was profoundly troubled by the existence of suffering. He saw that old age, sickness, and death came to everyone, regardless of their status or possessions.
After his enlightenment, the Buddha taught extensively about the nature of suffering and how to free ourselves from it. One of his most practical teachings addressed worry and anxiety. He said to ask yourself 2 questions about anything that troubles you. First, is there something I can do about this? If yes, then do it. There is no need to worry, you have a course of action. Second, if there is nothing you can do about it, why worry? Worry will not change the outcome. It only steals your peace in the present moment. This teaching is not about being passive or indifferent. It is about directing your energy wisely. It is about recognizing the difference between productive problem-solving and the endless mental spinning that exhausts us without creating any solution. Tonight, if worries arise, gently ask these questions. If there is something you can do, acknowledge it and let it wait for tomorrow. If there is nothing you can do, practice letting it go. Your worry is not keeping anyone safe. Your anxiety is not preventing future problems. You can release it and rest. The practice of mindful breathing. The Buddha said that mindfulness of breathing is the most direct path to peace. Why breathing? Because the breath is always with us, always in the present moment. You cannot breathe yesterday's breath or tomorrow's breath, only this one, right now. In this moment, notice your breath without trying to change it. Is it shallow or deep? Fast or slow? Smooth or irregular? Simply observe. Your breath knows what to do without your management. It has been breathing you since the moment you were born, through sleep and waking, through joy and sorrow. Now, begin to breathe just a little more deeply, a little more slowly. Breathe in through your nose, feeling the cool air entering. Breathe out through your mouth, feeling the warm air leaving. With each exhale, let your body soften a bit more. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let your jaw relax. Let your tongue rest softly in your mouth. Breathing in, you might silently say to yourself, I am breathing in peace. Breathing out, I am breathing out tension. Or simply, in, out, like waves on a shore, endlessly patient, endlessly returning. If your mind wanders, and it will, this is perfectly normal. Gently guide it back to the breath. No judgment, no frustration. Think of it like training a puppy, gentle, patient, kind. The mind wandering is not failure. Noticing it and returning is the practice. The story of the farmer and the horse. A farmer's horse ran away. His neighbors said, "Such bad luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returned, bringing 7 wild horses with it. The neighbors exclaimed, "Such good luck." The farmer said, "Maybe." The following day, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses and was thrown, breaking his leg. The neighbors said, "Such bad luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." The day after that, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army. Seeing the son's broken leg, they passed him by. The neighbors congratulated the farmer on his good fortune. The farmer said, "Maybe." This ancient Zen story reminds us that we rarely know the full implications of any event. What seems like a disaster may contain hidden gifts. What appears to be tremendous fortune may carry unseen challenges. The farmer's wisdom lay not in predicting the future, but in accepting the present without labeling it prematurely. As you rest, can you hold your day's events a bit more lightly? The thing that seemed to go wrong Maybe it has aspects you haven't yet perceived. The opportunity you missed? Maybe it wasn't meant for you. Trust that life unfolds in ways our limited perspective cannot fully grasp. The teaching on attachment. The second noble truth taught by the Buddha identifies attachment or craving as the root of suffering. This doesn't mean we shouldn't love people or enjoy pleasant experiences. It means we suffer when we grasp at them, when we try to make permanent what is by nature temporary. Imagine holding a small bird in your hand. If you close your fist too tightly, you might crush it. If you hold your hand wide open with no care, it might fly away before you wish. But if you hold it gently, with an open palm, you can enjoy its presence while honoring its nature and freedom. This is how we might hold everything in life: relationships, possessions, achievements, even our ideas about ourselves. We can appreciate them, care for them, enjoy them, while knowing they will change and being willing to let them transform. What are you holding too tightly tonight? Where in your life is your fist clenched, trying to freeze time, trying to control outcomes, trying to make certain what is inherently uncertain? See if you can soften your grip just a little, not abandoning what you care about, but holding it with more ease, more trust. The woodcutter's wisdom. There was once a young monk who was troubled by the slowness of his progress toward enlightenment. He went to an old master and asked, "I have been practicing meditation for years, but I still feel far from awakening. How long will it take?" The master replied, "Perhaps 10 years. "But what if I practice with great intensity and dedication?" asked the monk. "Then perhaps 20 years, said the master. Confused, the monk asked, "How could trying harder make it take longer?" The master smiled. "The more you focus on the goal, the less attention you pay to the path. A woodcutter who constantly looks up at the tree's height makes slow progress. One who focuses on each swing of the axe, each chip of wood, finds the tree felled before he realizes it." This teaching points to a profound paradox. Striving too hard for peace can prevent peace. Grasping too desperately for sleep can chase sleep away. Sometimes the way forward is not through more effort, but through more letting go. As you settle into rest tonight, what if you stopped trying to fall asleep? What if you simply allowed yourself to rest, to be here, to enjoy the comfort of lying down with nowhere to go and nothing to do? Sleep will come in its own time, like a cat that approaches when you stop chasing it.
Part 2. Stories of Wisdom. The Temple in the Mountains. High in the mountains stood an ancient temple where lived a master known for his serenity. Students came from far and wide, hoping to learn his secret. They expected to find him engaged in lengthy meditations, studying sacred texts, or performing elaborate rituals. Instead, they found him sweeping leaves from the temple steps. When they asked when he would begin teaching, he replied, "I am teaching now." The students looked confused. One brave soul asked, "But Master, you are only sweeping. When will you share the Dharma?" The master continued his sweeping, each stroke mindful and complete. "I sweep when sweeping. I sit when sitting. I speak when speaking. This is the Dharma. This is the teaching. This is the whole of the path." For 3 days the students watched him sweep, cook, tend the garden, drink tea. Some grew frustrated and left. Others began to notice something. The master was completely present for each activity. He didn't sweep while thinking about what to cook. He didn't cook while worrying about tomorrow's tasks. He was simply, fully, wholeheartedly where he was. This is the practice available to us in every moment.
complete presence with what is, rather than living in memories of what was or fantasies of what might be. As you rest here now, can you be completely present with resting, not thinking about how well you're resting or whether you'll sleep soon, but simply being here, now, at rest? The Buddha's last teaching. When the Buddha was on his deathbed, surrounded by grieving disciples, one of them asked, "Master, who will teach us when you are gone? Who will be our guide?" The Buddha gathered his remaining strength and spoke his final teaching. "Be a lamp unto yourself. Be your own refuge. Seek no other. All things arise and pass away. Strive on with diligence." These were his last words, an encouragement not to depend on external authorities, but to trust in our own wisdom and direct experience, not to search endlessly for the perfect teacher, book, or technique, but to turn inward and discover the light already present within. You have everything you need for this moment: your breath, your body, your awareness. These are your refuge. You don't need to become anyone other than who you are. You don't need to achieve some special state. The peace you seek is not somewhere else, sometime later. It is here, beneath the noise of seeking.
The Stone-Cutter's Journey. A stone-cutter looked at his simple life and envied the wealthy merchant passing by. "How powerful he is," he thought. "I wish I were a merchant." His wish was granted, and he became a wealthy merchant. But then he saw a government official pass by, and everyone bowed. "The official is more powerful than the merchant," he thought. "I wish I were an official." Again, his wish was granted. As an official, he felt mighty, until the scorching sun made him uncomfortable even in his fine robes. The sun is more powerful than any official, he realized. I wish I were the sun. He became the sun, powerful and bright. But then clouds blocked his rays. Clouds are more powerful than the sun, he thought, and became a cloud. As a cloud, he felt supreme until he encountered a mountain that would not move despite his strongest storms. The mountain is most powerful, he decided, and became a mountain. Solid and unmovable, he was content until he felt a sharp pain. A stone-cutter was carving into his side. The story comes full circle, revealing a profound truth. We spend our lives chasing what we imagine will make us happy, only to discover we already had what we needed. Every condition contains both power and limitation. True contentment comes not from becoming something else, but from accepting what is. As you rest tonight, practice accepting yourself exactly as you are, not the self you wish you were or think you should be, but this self, here, now, with all its supposed flaws and limitations. What if this is already enough? The teaching of the two arrows. The Buddha taught that in life, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. He illustrated this with the parable of the two arrows. When an arrow strikes you, there is pain. This is the first arrow, the unavoidable pain of living in a body that ages, of having relationships that sometimes disappoint, of facing circumstances beyond our control. But then we often shoot ourselves with a second arrow, our reaction to the pain. We add story, judgment, fear, resistance. We think, this shouldn't be happening. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? This is terrible. It will never end. The first arrow is painful. The second arrow, our reaction, creates suffering. We cannot always avoid the first arrow. Life brings challenges, losses, discomfort. But we can learn to notice when we're reaching for the second arrow,
We can pause, breathe, and choose not to layer stories of catastrophe onto simple pain. We can meet what is with presence rather than panic. Tonight, if physical discomfort arises, if your body aches, or you can't find a comfortable position, notice if you're adding a second arrow. Can you feel the sensation itself without the story that it's wrong, that you'll never sleep, that something is seriously wrong with you? Just sensation, just this moment, just breathing with what is. The thief who became a disciple. Angulimala was a feared bandit who had murdered 99 people, collecting a finger from each victim to wear as a necklace. His name meant necklace of fingers. When the Buddha heard of this, he deliberately walked through the forest where Angulimala lived. The bandit saw the Buddha and ran after him, planning to make him his 100th victim. But no matter how fast Angulimala ran, he could not catch up to the Buddha, who appeared to be walking at a normal pace. Exhausted, Angulimala shouted, "Stop, monk, stop!" The Buddha turned and said calmly, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who have not stopped." Confused, the bandit said, "What do you mean? You were walking and I am standing still." "I have stopped harming living beings, but you continue to harm yourself and others." These words pierced Angulimala's heart. In that moment, something in him shifted. He fell to his knees and begged to become the Buddha's disciple. The Buddha accepted him. The other monks were horrified. How could the Buddha accept such a violent criminal? But the Buddha saw that Angulimala's transformation was genuine. The man who had committed terrible acts could still awaken. No one is beyond redemption. It is never too late to stop running from ourselves and start walking the path of peace. What parts of yourself have you deemed unforgivable? What mistakes do you think disqualify you from peace? The Buddha's acceptance of Angulimala reminds us that transformation is always possible. You can stop the patterns that harm you. You can begin again, right now, in this moment.
The value of simplicity. A Western journalist visited a monastery and was surprised to find the monks' rooms nearly empty, just a mat, a blanket, and a few books. "Where is your furniture?" he asked one monk. The monk replied, "Where is yours?" Confused, the journalist said, "But I'm only passing through. I'm just a visitor here." The monk smiled. "So am I." We are all just passing through this life. The possessions we accumulate, the status we achieve, the body we inhabit, none of it is truly ours to keep. We arrive with nothing, we leave with nothing. In between, we often burden ourselves with accumulating and protecting things that ultimately don't accompany us anywhere. This doesn't mean we shouldn't have possessions or enjoy comfort. It means holding it all lightly, remembering we are temporary custodians, not permanent owners. It means recognizing that happiness doesn't come from what we have, but from how we relate to what we have. As you prepare for sleep, notice the simplicity of this moment. You need nothing more than you have right now. The elaborate story of your life, your achievements, your failures, your complex identity can rest. For these hours of sleep, you can be as simple as the monk's room. Just presence, just breath, just being. The Zen Garden. A student asked his master, "Why do you spend so much time raking the sand in the garden into patterns that will be disturbed by tomorrow's wind?" The master continued his raking, creating perfect concentric circles around a large stone. "I do not rake the sand to create something permanent. I rake it to fully engage with this moment. Tomorrow I will rake again, and that will be its own complete moment." The student pressed further, "But isn't this futile? Why not do something that lasts?" The master paused and looked at him kindly. "What lasts? Even mountains wear down to sand eventually. Even the stars burn out. If I waited to do only what lasts forever, I would do nothing. Instead, I do what is before me with full attention, and each moment is complete in itself. This teaching addresses our obsession with permanence and legacy. We want our actions to matter, to last, to be significant. But the Master understood that significance is not about duration, it's about depth of presence. A moment fully lived is complete regardless of whether it lasts. Your life is made of moments like these, fleeting, impermanent, yet whole. This moment of rest is not less valuable because it will end. In fact, its temporary nature makes it precious. You will never have this exact moment again. Can you honor it with your full presence? The story of the moon in water. A young monk saw the moon's reflection in a bucket and became enchanted by its beauty. He decided to capture it, so he quickly covered the bucket with a lid. Excitedly, he brought it to his master. "Master, I have captured the moon. Come see." The master came and looked at the covered bucket. He said, "Show me." The monk removed the lid, but the bucket now sat in shadow. No moon appeared. The monk was devastated. "It's gone. The moon escaped." The master smiled. "You never had the moon. You only had its reflection. The real moon was always in the sky, free and whole. You cannot capture it, own it, or contain it. You can only appreciate it when conditions allow." How many times do we try to capture and possess experiences, relationships, moments? We want to freeze time, to keep things exactly as they are when they please us. But like the moon in the water, these are reflections, beautiful but not possessible. The attempt to grasp them only causes frustration. True appreciation comes from open-handed awareness. We can enjoy the moon's reflection when it appears, without needing to own it. We can love people without needing to control them. We can savor pleasant moments without trying to make them permanent. This is the freedom of non-attachment.
The Stone-Cutter's Journey. A stone-cutter looked at his simple life and envied the wealthy merchant passing by. "How powerful he is," he thought. "I wish I were a merchant." His wish was granted, and he became a wealthy merchant. But then he saw a government official pass by, and everyone bowed. "The official is more powerful than the merchant," he thought. "I wish I were an official." Again, his wish was granted. As an official, he felt mighty, until the scorching sun made him uncomfortable even in his fine robes. The sun is more powerful than any official, he realized. I wish I were the sun. He became the sun, powerful and bright. But then clouds blocked his rays. Clouds are more powerful than the sun, he thought, and became a cloud. As a cloud, he felt supreme until he encountered a mountain that would not move despite his strongest storms. The mountain is most powerful, he decided, and became a mountain. Solid and unmovable, he was content until he felt a sharp pain. A stonecutter was carving into his side. The story comes full circle, revealing a profound truth. We spend our lives chasing what we imagine will make us happy, only to discover we already had what we needed. Every condition contains both power and limitation. True contentment comes not from becoming something else, but from accepting what is. As you rest tonight, practice accepting yourself exactly as you are, not the self you wish you were or think you should be, but this self, here, now, with all its supposed flaws and limitations. What if this is already enough? The teaching of the two arrows. The Buddha taught that in life, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
He illustrated this with the parable of the two arrows. When an arrow strikes you, there is pain. This is the first arrow, the unavoidable pain of living in a body that ages, of having relationships that sometimes disappoint, of facing circumstances beyond our control. But then we often shoot ourselves with a second arrow, our reaction to the pain. We add story, judgment, fear, resistance. We think, this shouldn't be happening. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? This is terrible. It will never end. The first arrow is painful. The second arrow, our reaction, creates suffering. We cannot always avoid the first arrow. Life brings challenges, losses, discomfort. But we can learn to notice when we're reaching for the second arrow. We can pause, breathe, and choose not to layer stories of catastrophe onto simple pain. We can meet what is with presence rather than panic. Tonight, if physical discomfort arises, if your body aches, or you can't find a comfortable position, notice if you're adding a second arrow. Can you feel the sensation itself without the story that it's wrong, that you'll never sleep, that something is seriously wrong with you? Just sensation, just this moment, just breathing with what is. The thief who became a disciple. Angulimala was a feared bandit who had murdered 99 people, collecting a finger from each victim to wear as a necklace. His name meant necklace of fingers. When the Buddha heard of this, he deliberately walked through the forest where Angulimala lived. The bandit saw the Buddha and ran after him, planning to make him his 100th victim. But no matter how fast Angulimala ran, he could not catch up to the Buddha, who appeared to be walking at a normal pace. Exhausted, Angulimala shouted, "Stop, monk, stop!" The Buddha turned and said calmly, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who have not stopped." Confused, the bandit said, "What do you mean? You were walking and I am standing still." "I have stopped harming living beings, but you continue to harm yourself and others." These words pierced Angulimala's heart. In that moment, something in him shifted. He fell to his knees and begged to become the Buddha's disciple. The Buddha accepted him. The other monks were horrified. How could the Buddha accept such a violent criminal? But the Buddha saw that Angulimala's transformation was genuine. The man who had committed terrible acts could still awaken. No one is beyond redemption. It is never too late to stop running from ourselves and start walking the path of peace. What parts of yourself have you deemed unforgivable? What mistakes do you think disqualify you from peace? The Buddha's acceptance of Angulimala reminds us that transformation is always possible. You can stop the patterns that harm you. You can begin again, right now, in this moment.
The wisdom of not knowing. A student approached a Zen master and said, "I have been studying Buddhism for years. I have read all the major texts. I can recite the sutras from memory. I understand the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the concept of emptiness. Surely I am close to enlightenment now." The master looked at him carefully and said, "Your learning is impressive, but answer me this. What is your original face, the face you had before your parents were born?" The student tried to answer with his knowledge, citing various teachings and philosophies. The master listened patiently, then said, "You know much about Buddhism, but do you know your own mind? You can explain emptiness conceptually, but have you experienced it directly? Put down your books and concepts. Enter not knowing. This is where wisdom begins." In Zen, there is a concept called beginner's mind, approaching each moment fresh, without the burden of accumulated knowledge and assumptions. The expert knows so much that they cannot see what is actually here. The beginner, knowing nothing, sees clearly. As you settle into sleep, can you adopt beginner's mind? Can you release your expertise in insomnia or anxiety or whatever patterns you think define your nights? Can you approach this night as if for the first time, with curiosity and openness? What if you don't know how this night will unfold? What if that not knowing is actually freedom rather than threat? The practice of gratitude. In Buddhist practice, gratitude is not just a pleasant emotion, but a transformative practice that shifts our perspective from scarcity to abundance, from complaint to appreciation. The Buddha taught a simple practice. Before sleep, reflect on the day and find 3 things to be grateful for. They need not be grand. In fact, it is often the simple things that, when noticed, fill us with the deepest appreciation. Tonight, can you find 3 things? Perhaps you are grateful for this comfortable place to rest. Perhaps for a kind word someone spoke to you today. Perhaps for a good meal or clean water, or the ability to see or hear or move. Perhaps for the breath that continues, faithful and steady, without you having to remember it. As you identify these things, really let the gratitude land in your heart. Not just thinking, yes, that's nice, but actually feeling the warmth of appreciation. Notice how gratitude feels in your body. Does your chest open? Do you breathe more deeply? Does your face soften into a slight smile? Gratitude is incompatible with anxiety. When we are genuinely grateful, we cannot simultaneously be worried or resentful. Gratitude returns us to the present moment and helps us see that even in difficult times, there are always gifts to be found. The story of the broken bowl. A monk had a beautiful bowl that he cherished. It had been a gift from his first teacher, and he had eaten from it every day for 20 years. One morning, as he was washing it, the bowl slipped from his hands and shattered on the stone floor. The other monks waited for his reaction, expecting sorrow or anger. Instead, he gazed at the broken pieces for a long moment, then quietly said, "The bowl was whole. Now it is broken. Both are true. Both are the way of things." He swept up the pieces without drama or despair, then went to get another bowl. Later, a student asked him, "Master, did you not feel sad about losing such a precious bowl?" The monk replied, "I felt sadness arise, yes. I noticed it, acknowledged it, and let it pass. The bowl served its purpose for 20 years. Now those years are complete. Clinging to what was will not bring the bowl back. It will only create suffering where there need only be acceptance." This is the essence of Buddhist teaching on loss. We can feel our feelings fully without adding layers of resistance and story that create unnecessary suffering. We can acknowledge sadness without making ourselves wrong for having it or trying to push it away. We can honor what was while accepting what is. As you rest tonight, is there something you are clinging to that has already ended? A relationship, a job, a version of yourself, a way of being in the world? Can you practice the monk's wisdom, acknowledging the truth of both what was and what is, without warfare between them?
Part 4. The Path of Acceptance. The Teaching on Suffering. The first noble truth, as taught by the Buddha, is that suffering exists. This might sound pessimistic, but it is actually liberating. The Buddha was not saying that life is only suffering, but rather that suffering is an inevitable part of the human experience that we need to acknowledge honestly. The Pali word is dukkha, which is often translated as suffering, but has a broader meaning. It includes obvious suffering, like pain and grief, but also the subtle dissatisfaction that permeates even pleasant experiences when we know they won't last.
It is the background hum of unease that comes from living in a world where everything changes and nothing can be permanently grasped. But here is the crucial part. The Buddha didn't stop with acknowledging suffering. He taught that there is a path out of suffering. That path begins with seeing clearly, without denial or avoidance, what is actually true about our experience. So often we add to our suffering by refusing to acknowledge it. We think we should always be happy, always productive, always at peace. When we're not, we judge ourselves harshly. We make the suffering worse by making it mean something is wrong with us. The Buddha's invitation is different. Can you acknowledge what you're feeling without making it wrong? Can you say, right now there is anxiety, without adding, I shouldn't be anxious? Can you notice, right now there is sadness, without the story, I'll never be happy again? This simple acknowledgement, this is what's here right now, is the beginning of freedom. Not by changing what's here, but by changing how we relate to it. The master who couldn't sleep. There was once a Zen master who developed severe insomnia. For weeks he barely slept at all. His students were concerned and suggested various remedies. He tried them all without success. Finally, one night, as he lay awake once again, he had a realization. He stopped trying to fall asleep. He stopped judging himself for being awake. He simply rested in bed, following his breath, being present with his experience. If I am to be awake tonight, I will be awake. If sleep comes, I will sleep. Either way, I am here, breathing, alive. This is enough. That night, he slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. The paradox was clear. His struggle to sleep was keeping him awake. His judgment about being awake was creating more agitation than the wakefulness itself. Once he accepted the possibility of not sleeping, once he stopped making it a problem, sleep naturally returned. This doesn't mean we should never try to improve our sleep, but it means we can hold our efforts lightly, without desperate attachment to outcomes. We can do what supports sleep, create a peaceful environment, maintain good routines, while simultaneously accepting whatever happens. The teaching of compassion. The Buddha taught that compassion, karuna, is essential to the path of awakening. But compassion is not pity. It is not looking down on others from a place of superiority. True compassion recognizes the shared nature of suffering and responds with kindness. The traditional practice of compassion begins with recognizing that all beings, just like you, want to be happy and free from suffering. The person who cut you off in traffic, the colleague who irritates you, the difficult family member, the political leader you disagree with, all of them, in their own confused and often unskillful ways, are seeking happiness and avoiding pain. This recognition doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it shifts our response from pure judgment to understanding. It opens the possibility of responding with wisdom rather than merely reacting from our own pain. Most importantly, compassion includes ourselves. So many of us are harsh inner critics, speaking to ourselves in ways we would never speak to a friend. We judge our weaknesses, our mistakes, our human limitations mercilessly. The Buddha taught that we must include ourselves in the circle of compassion. When you notice pain, whether physical, emotional, or mental, can you respond to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a suffering friend? Can you place a hand on your heart and silently offer yourself compassion? This is hard right now. May I be kind to myself in this moment. The story of the prodigal son. In a Buddhist sutra, there is a story similar to the Christian parable of the prodigal son. A young man leaves his wealthy father's house and falls into poverty, becoming a beggar. Years later, by chance, he arrives at his father's mansion seeking work, not recognizing it as his childhood home. The father immediately recognizes his son, but sees that the young man, worn down by years of hardship, would be overwhelmed by suddenly learning his true identity. So the father, disguising himself, gives his son a job cleaning the stables. For years, the son works humbly, and the father gradually gives him more responsibility, slowly building his confidence and dignity. Finally, when the son has grown in wisdom and self-worth, the father reveals the truth. You have always been my son. This has always been your home. Everything I have is yours. This teaching points to a profound truth. We have never been separate from our true nature of peace and completeness. Like the son who forgot his identity, we have forgotten our original wholeness. We search everywhere for what we already possess. The spiritual path is not about becoming something new. It is about remembering what is already true, cleaning away the false identity and limiting beliefs until we recognize our original nature. As you rest tonight, can you sense this? Beneath all your stories about who you are, beneath all your problems and achievements, there is simply awareness, spacious, peaceful, whole. You don't have to create this, you only have to stop overlooking it.
The practice of letting go. Letting go is perhaps the most frequently taught but least understood practice in Buddhism. We think it means getting rid of things, pushing away what we don't want. But true letting go is more like opening a hand that has been clenched. Imagine you're holding a hot coal. The natural response is to try to throw it away. But letting go is not a violent action. It is a gentle release, an opening, a simple cessation of grasping. We can practice letting go with thoughts. When a worry arises, instead of engaging with it or trying to suppress it, we can simply notice it and let it be. We don't have to follow its narrative. We don't have to believe its predictions. We can watch it arise like a cloud in the sky, float for a while, and dissolve. We can practice letting go with physical tension. Where in your body are you holding, clenching, bracing? Can you soften there, not through force, but through gentle invitation? Can you let your body remember its natural state of ease? We can practice letting go of the day. All that happened today, the conversations, the tasks, the small victories and disappointments, can be released. It is complete. It is in the past. Holding on to it will not change it. You can let it go and arrive fully in this moment of rest. The wisdom of acceptance. A Western student once asked a Buddhist teacher, "If I accept things as they are, won't I become passive? Won't I stop trying to improve my life or make things better?" The teacher replied, "Acceptance is not passivity. It is simply acknowledging what is true right now without adding layers of resistance and denial. From this clear seeing, wise action can arise naturally." She continued, "If you have a headache and don't accept it, you might tense your whole body against it, making it worse. If you accept it, you can relax around it and take appropriate medicine if you have it. If you don't have medicine, you can rest without adding the suffering of resistance." Acceptance, she concluded, is not about liking everything or wanting things to stay the same. It is about meeting reality clearly, without the filter of "this shouldn't be happening." From this clarity, you can respond skillfully rather than react blindly. Tonight, what is true about your experience? Perhaps you feel tired but restless. Perhaps your mind is busy. Perhaps your body aches.
Can you simply acknowledge this without making it mean something has gone wrong? This is just what is here right now. It will change, as everything does. But right now, it is this. Can you accept this moment exactly as it is?
Part 5. Stories of Transformation. The Angry Man and the Buddha. A man once approached the Buddha, furious about his teachings. He began hurling insults and accusations, his face red with rage. The Buddha listened calmly. When the man finally paused for breath, the Buddha asked gently, "If someone offers you a gift and you decline to accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" Confused by the question, the man answered, "It would still belong to the one who offered it." "Just so," the Buddha said. "You have offered me anger and insults. I decline to accept them. They remain yours. You may keep them." The man stood speechless as the Buddha's words sank in. In trying to disturb the Buddha's peace, he had only disturbed his own. This story illustrates a profound teaching. We can choose what we accept into our inner space. Others may offer anger, criticism, judgment. We don't have to receive these offerings. We can let them remain with the person offering them. This doesn't mean we become cold or uncaring. It means we maintain our center, our peace, regardless of the chaos around us. We respond from clarity rather than react from disturbance. Tonight, if difficult thoughts or emotions arise, your own inner critic, your own harsh judgments, you can practice the same wisdom. These thoughts are offering themselves to you. You don't have to accept them. You can let them be, without engagement, without belief. They can remain in the space of mind, while you remain in the space of peaceful awareness. The rice bowl meditation. In traditional monasteries, monks practice eating meditation with great care. Each meal becomes an opportunity for mindfulness. They are taught to eat slowly, to notice each grain of rice, to be fully present with the act of nourishing their body. One teaching story tells of a monk who complained about the simple monastery food. The abbot asked him, "When you eat, are you truly tasting the food, or are you lost in thoughts about the past and future?" The monk admitted he was usually thinking about other things while eating. "Then you are not really experiencing anything," the abbot said. "Whether the food is plain or fancy, if you are not present, you miss the actual experience. Tomorrow, try eating one meal in complete silence and presence. Taste each bite. Notice the texture, the temperature, the flavors. See what you discover." The next day, the monk followed this instruction. To his surprise, he found that the simple rice and vegetables had subtle flavors he had never noticed before. The warmth of the food, the satisfaction of hunger being met, the miracle of having enough to eat, all of this became apparent when he was actually present. This teaching applies to all of life, including sleep. Are you actually experiencing rest, or are you thinking about rest, worrying about rest, judging your rest? Can you drop the mental commentary and simply be here, now, resting? The teaching of the middle way. Before his enlightenment, Siddhartha practiced extreme asceticism, denying his body food and comfort, pushing himself to the edge of death. He believed that punishing the body would lead to spiritual liberation. One day, weak and near death from fasting, he heard a music teacher on a passing boat instructing his student, "If you tighten the string too much, it will break. If you leave it too slack, it won't play. The beautiful sound comes from finding the right tension, not too tight, not too loose." This simple teaching illuminated a profound truth for Siddhartha. He had spent years in extreme luxury, then years in extreme asceticism. Neither extreme had brought him peace or awakening. He realized that the path to liberation lay in the middle way, not indulgence, not punishment, but balance and moderation. He began to take food again and care for his body wisely. Soon after, he sat under the Bodhi tree and attained enlightenment. The middle way applies to our practice of rest as well. We don't need to be rigid about sleep, creating elaborate rules and becoming anxious if we deviate from them. But we also shouldn't be completely careless, staying up all night or filling our evenings with stimulation that makes sleep impossible. The middle way is finding what supports you without becoming attached to rigid formulas. It is caring for yourself wisely without making it another source of stress. It is trying without striving, caring without clinging. The story of the empty boat. A man was crossing a river in his small boat when another boat bumped into him hard enough to nearly capsize his vessel. Furious, he turned to shout at the other boatman, only to discover the boat was empty, having drifted loose from its mooring. His anger immediately dissolved. How could he be angry at an empty boat? Later, reflecting on this experience, he realized most of what upsets us are empty boats, people acting from their own pain, confusion, or unconsciousness, not deliberately trying to harm us. If we could see this clearly, how much anger and resentment would dissolve. This doesn't mean we excuse harmful behavior or fail to set boundaries, but it helps us respond with wisdom rather than react from our wounded egos. The person who cut you off in traffic, the colleague who forgot to do what they promised, even your own mind that keeps you awake when you want to sleep, all empty boats, not acting with the intention to harm you. Can you bring this perspective to your own experience tonight? Your busy mind is not trying to torture you. It is just an empty boat, bumping around, doing what minds do. You don't need to be angry at it. You can simply notice it and return to your anchor, the breath, the body, the simple presence of being. The teaching of interconnection. The Buddha taught the principle of dependent origination, that all things arise in dependence on conditions, and nothing exists independently. A flower cannot exist without the seed, the soil, the rain, the sun, the gardener. Each of these in turn depends on countless other factors. Everything is connected to everything else in an infinite web of relationships. This teaching can seem abstract, but it has immediate practical application. When we understand interconnection, we see that our well-being is not separate from the well-being of others. Our peace of mind is connected to how we treat ourselves and others. Our sleep tonight is connected to how we spent our day, what we ate, who we spoke with, what we consumed in media and conversation. Understanding this, we become more careful and caring with all our actions, knowing they ripple outward and return to us. We become more compassionate, seeing that others' actions towards us arise from conditions, just as our actions arise from conditions. Tonight, you can reflect on your interconnection. The bed you rest on was made by hands you'll never meet. The roof over your head was built by people you'll never know. The food that nourished you today traveled from farms and factories, carried by countless workers. You are held and supported by an invisible web of human effort and care. Can you feel gratitude for this? Can you let yourself be held by this great interconnected web of existence? You are not alone struggling in isolation. You are part of something vast, supported in ways you cannot fully see or comprehend.
Part 6. The Deepest Peace. The Story of the Uncarved Block. In Zen teaching, there is the concept of the uncarved block, a piece of wood that has not yet been shaped into anything specific. It holds infinite potential. Once carved into a bowl, it cannot become a statue. Once shaped into a chair, it cannot become a table. But as an uncarved block, it could become anything.
The Taoists who influenced Zen Buddhism saw this as a metaphor for our original nature. Before we accumulate identities, beliefs, stories about ourselves, we are like the uncarved block, pure potential, pure being, unlimited by definition. We spend our lives carving ourselves into specific shapes. I am someone who worries. I am someone who can't sleep. I am someone who failed at this or succeeded at that. Each identity we adopt, each story we tell about ourselves, is like another cut in the wood, limiting what we think is possible. But underneath all these carvings, the original wood remains. Underneath all your identities and stories, there is simply aware presence, the one who notices all these thoughts, all these stories, all these sensations. That awareness has never been carved. It remains forever the uncarved block, fresh, open, unlimited. Tonight, can you rest as this awareness rather than all the stories? Not the person who has insomnia or anxiety or problems, not the person with this history or that identity, just awareness itself, spacious, peaceful, welcoming all experience without being defined by any of it. The teaching of refuge. In Buddhist tradition, practitioners take refuge in the three jewels, the Buddha, wakened wisdom, the Dharma, the teachings and truth, and the Sangha, the community of practitioners. But what does it mean to take refuge? A refuge is a place of safety and peace. When the storms of life rage, where do we go for shelter? Some people take refuge in possessions, status, relationships, or substances. But these are like houses built on sand. They cannot provide stable, lasting refuge because they are themselves impermanent and uncertain. The true refuge is always available, always reliable. The refuge of the Buddha is the awakened potential within your own heart. The refuge of the Dharma is the truth that you can observe in your own experience. The refuge of the Sangha is the connection with all beings who seek peace and understanding. Most fundamentally, your refuge is this present moment. Whatever is happening in your life, whatever challenges you face, whatever pain you carry, in this very moment, as you breathe, as you rest, you can take refuge in simple presence. The future is unknown, and the past is unchangeable, but this moment is here, real, alive. As you settle deeper into rest, take refuge in this breath, this moment, this awareness. No matter what tomorrow brings, right now, in this instant, you are here. You are breathing. You are aware. This is enough. This is your refuge. The practice of deep listening. The Buddha emphasized the importance of skillful listening, not just to others, but to ourselves. Most of us move through life so quickly, so busy with doing and achieving and managing, that we never really listen to ourselves. What does your body want to tell you? What are your emotions trying to communicate? What wisdom lies beneath the noise of your busy thoughts? In meditation, we practice deep listening. We create space and silence, and we listen without agenda. We don't listen to fix or solve or change anything. We simply listen with presence and compassion. Tonight, can you practice deep listening to yourself? Lie quietly and ask your body, what do you need? Listen without expectation. Maybe your body needs to shift position. Maybe it needs to soften in certain places. Maybe it simply needs acknowledgement and acceptance. Ask your heart, what are you carrying? Listen with compassion. Maybe you're carrying sadness, fear, loneliness, or frustration. You don't have to make these feelings go away. You only have to acknowledge them, honor them, let them know they are heard. Ask your deepest self, what is true right now beneath all the noise? Listen in the silence between thoughts. In that space, there is often a knowing, a wisdom that doesn't come from thinking, but from being. This deep listening is an act of self-compassion and respect. It says to yourself, you matter. Your experience matters. I am here to listen. The story of the question. A student traveled far to visit a renowned Zen master. After weeks of journey, he finally arrived at the remote monastery and was granted an audience. He had prepared his question carefully. "Master," he asked, "what is the secret to inner peace?" The master looked at him for a long moment, then asked, "Have you eaten?" "Yes," the student replied, confused. "Then wash your bowl," the master said, and turned away. The student was bewildered and disappointed. He had journeyed so far, and this was the teaching? As he went to wash his bowl, frustration built within him. But as he stood at the washing basin, mindfully cleaning his bowl, something shifted. He realized this moment, washing this bowl, fully present and attentive, this was the teaching. Peace is not in some distant achievement or profound realization. It is in being fully present with whatever you are doing, even something as mundane as washing a bowl.
The secret was not secret at all. It was utterly simple, right in front of him, in this moment, and this one, and this one. Peace is always available in the simple act of being present. As you rest here, can you find peace in the simple act of resting? Not in falling asleep, not in achieving some special state, but in simply being here, now, breathing, resting, allowing. The teaching of Buddha nature. One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is that all beings possess Buddha nature, the seed of awakening, the potential for complete peace and understanding. This nature is not something we have to create or earn. It is already present, has always been present from the very beginning. Think of a mirror covered with dust. The dust obscures the reflective surface, but it doesn't damage the mirror itself. Once the dust is wiped away, the mirror reveals its nature. It was always there, just temporarily hidden. Our Buddha nature is like this. It is covered by the dust of ignorance, confusion, negative habits, and false beliefs, but it is never destroyed. No matter what you have done, no matter what has been done to you, no matter how lost or broken you feel, your essential nature of peace and wholeness remains intact, waiting to be revealed. The spiritual path is not about becoming someone new. It is about removing the coverings, the false identities, the limiting beliefs, until your true nature shines forth naturally. Tonight, trust in your Buddha nature. Trust that beneath all your struggles, beneath all your worries and flaws, there is something pure, whole, and peaceful. You don't have to dig for it or create it. You only have to stop covering it with layer upon layer of judgment and story. Rest in your true nature. It has been here all along. The practice of loving yourself. We end where we began, with loving kindness, but now directed with full force toward yourself. After all these stories and teachings, after all these words, the practice is simple. Love yourself as you are, right now, without conditions. Place your hand on your heart and feel its beating. This heart that has carried you through every moment of your life, that continues faithfully beating without your conscious effort, that holds your sorrows and your joys. Can you love it? Can you thank it? Feel your breath moving through your body. This breath that has sustained you from your first moment of life, that connects you to all living beings, that is always here as a refuge. Can you love it? Can you appreciate it? Acknowledge your mind with all its busyness,
all its worries, all its endless thinking. This mind that is trying so hard to keep you safe, to solve your problems, to understand your world. Can you love it, even when it's difficult? Can you treat it with compassion? Say to yourself, either silently or aloud, I love you. I care about you. You are doing your best. You are enough. You are worthy of peace and rest and happiness. May you be well. May you be peaceful. May you be at ease. Let these words of loving kindness wash over you like a gentle rain. You deserve your own love. You deserve your own compassion. You deserve to rest in peace.
Part 7. Tales of Awakening and Tranquility. The story of Mahakashipa's smile. One day, the Buddha stood before thousands of disciples gathered to hear him teach. Instead of speaking, he simply held up a single flower and gazed at it silently. The crowd grew restless and confused. What kind of teaching was this? But one disciple, Mahakashipa, understood completely. He smiled, and the Buddha smiled back, knowing that the teaching had been transmitted mind to mind, beyond words, beyond concepts. The essence of reality cannot be fully captured in language. Sometimes the most profound truths are communicated in silence, in a gesture, in a moment of pure presence. This became known as the Flower Sermon, and it established a lineage of direct transmission that flows through Zen Buddhism to this day. The teaching is simple yet profound. Truth is not found in accumulating knowledge or understanding complex philosophies. It is found in direct, immediate experience. It is found in the flower, in this moment, in silent understanding. As you rest tonight, you don't need to understand everything. You don't need to figure out life's mysteries or solve all your problems. You can simply be present, like Mahakashipa recognizing the teaching in the flower. The flower of this moment is enough. Your presence with it is enough. The teaching of the 6 paramitas. In the Mahayana Buddhist tradition, practitioners cultivate the 6 perfections, or paramitas. These are not rules to follow rigidly, but qualities to develop gradually, gently, over a lifetime. Let us explore each one as a pathway to peace. The first is generosity, dana in Sanskrit. This is not just giving material things, though that is included. It is giving attention, presence, kindness. It is giving others the benefit of the doubt. Tonight, can you be generous with yourself? Give yourself permission to rest without earning it. Give yourself kindness without conditions. The second is ethical conduct, sila. This means living in harmony with your deepest values, not harming yourself or others through your actions, words, or thoughts. As you settle into sleep, you can review your day gently, without harsh judgment. Did you live in alignment with your values? If not, can you forgive yourself and resolve to try again tomorrow? If so, can you appreciate your efforts? The third is patience, kshanti. This is the ability to remain calm in difficult situations, to bear discomfort without reactivity, to wait without anxiety. If sleep does not come quickly tonight, can you practice patience? Can you trust that rest is happening even in wakefulness, that your body is recovering even if your mind is active? The fourth is diligent effort, virya. This is steady, continuous practice without forcing or straining. It is the middle way between laziness and overexertion. In your practice of rest, this might mean establishing good sleep routines without becoming obsessive about them, caring for your well-being without making it another source of stress. The fifth is meditation, dhyana.
This is the practice of training the mind to rest in awareness, to observe thoughts without being swept away by them, to cultivate inner stillness. Even lying in bed, you are practicing meditation. Each time you notice your mind has wandered into worry and you gently return to the breath, you are meditating. And the sixth is wisdom, prajna. This is seeing things as they truly are, understanding the nature of reality directly, not just conceptually. Wisdom recognizes impermanence, interconnection, and the possibility of freedom from suffering. Tonight, wisdom might be recognizing that your experience right now, whatever it is workable. It is not permanent. You are not broken. All is in flux, including this moment. The story of the tiger and the strawberry. A man was being chased by a fierce tiger through the forest. He ran until he came to the edge of a cliff. With the tiger closing in behind him, he grabbed onto a vine and lowered himself over the cliff's edge. Looking down, he saw another tiger waiting at the bottom. Looking up, he saw the first tiger snarling above. Then he noticed two mice, one white, one black, gnawing at the vine he was holding. His situation appeared hopeless. At this moment, he noticed a wild strawberry growing from the cliff face. He plucked it and ate it. It was delicious, the sweetest strawberry he had ever tasted. This story is about being fully present even in seemingly impossible circumstances. The two tigers represent birth and death, the unavoidable boundaries of existence. The white and black mice represent day and night, constantly gnawing away at our life. We are all in this predicament, though we usually don't think about it. The teaching is not to deny our situation or to pretend everything is fine. It is to recognize that even in the midst of difficulty, even with uncertainty all around us, this moment contains beauty, sweetness, possibility. The strawberry is available now. Will we taste it, or will we be so consumed by fear of the future and regret about the past that we miss the only moment we actually have? Tonight, you may feel caught between worries, concerns about yesterday's events, and anxiety about tomorrow's demands. But right now, in this moment, is there a strawberry? Is there something to appreciate, to savor, to be grateful for? The softness of your pillow, perhaps, the warmth of your blanket, the rhythm of your breath. Can you taste these simple gifts fully? The practice of walking meditation. Although you are lying down now, the teaching of walking meditation offers wisdom for any activity. In walking meditation, practitioners walk very slowly, being fully present with each step. As the foot lifts, they notice lifting. As it moves forward, they notice moving. As it places down, they notice placing. Each step becomes a complete moment of presence. The key is not the walking itself, but the quality of attention brought to it. We can bring this same quality to any activity: eating, washing dishes, brushing teeth, lying in bed. The activity itself becomes a meditation when we bring full presence to it. Right now, lying here, can you bring this quality of attention to stillness? Notice the feeling of your body against the bed. Notice the texture of the sheets. Notice the weight of the blanket. Notice the temperature of the air on your face. Each sensation is worthy of your full attention, your appreciation, your presence. In this way, preparing for sleep becomes not a means to an end, but a complete activity in itself. You are not lying here in order to fall asleep. You are simply lying here, fully, completely, in this moment. Sleep may come or it may not, but either way, this moment of rest is whole in itself. The teaching of karma. Karma is often misunderstood in Western culture as fate or punishment, but the Buddhist understanding is simpler and more practical. Karma means action and consequence. Every action of body, speech, or mind creates effects that ripple outward and return to us. The good news is that karma is not fixed destiny. In every moment we can choose differently. We can interrupt old patterns and establish new ones. We can't change the past, but we can change how it conditions our present responses. As you review your day, you might notice actions you regret. This recognition is valuable. It shows your conscience is active, your values are alive. But dwelling in guilt doesn't help anyone. Better to acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, make amends if possible, and resolve to act differently next time. You might also notice kind things you did, moments of patience or compassion. Let yourself appreciate these. You are not just your mistakes. You are also your kindness, your efforts, your genuine care. All of this is your karma too. Tonight, you are creating karma even in how you relate to yourself as you try to rest. Are you harsh and critical, or gentle and patient? Are you demanding and controlling, or accepting and allowing? Each mental habit you practice tonight becomes stronger, shaping tomorrow's experience. The story of Ryokan and the thief. Ryokan was a Zen monk who lived very simply in a small hut on a mountain. He owned almost nothing except his begging bowl and a few books. One night, a thief broke into his hut. Ryokan sat up and watched with interest as the thief frantically searched for valuables, finding nothing worth stealing. Feeling compassion for the thief who had climbed all this way for nothing, Ryokan took off his own warm robe and offered it to him. "Here," he said gently.
The second hindrance is ill will, aversion, anger, resentment. This might appear as frustration with yourself for not sleeping, anger at noises keeping you awake, resentment about tomorrow's demands. The antidote is replacing ill will with loving kindness and compassion, first toward yourself, then toward whatever disturbs you. The third hindrance is sloth and torpor, dullness, lethargy, but not the peaceful relaxation we seek for sleep. It is more like being stuck in mental fog. Ironically, this can sometimes prevent sleep by keeping us in an uncomfortable state between waking and sleeping. The antidote is bringing brightness and interest to awareness, perhaps by focusing more precisely on the sensations of breathing. The fourth hindrance is restlessness and worry, the busy mind that jumps from thought to thought, from concern to concern. This is perhaps the most common obstacle to sleep. The antidote is grounding yourself in the present moment through the anchor of breath or body sensations, returning again and again when the mind wanders into future worries or past regrets. The fifth hindrance is doubt, uncertainty about whether you're doing it right, whether this practice will work, whether you're capable of peace. The antidote is confidence based on understanding. Every moment you notice you're distracted and return to presence, you're succeeding. The practice is not about never getting distracted. It's about noticing and returning again and again with patience and kindness. Tonight, if you notice any of these hindrances arising, you can simply recognize them. Ah, there is worry. There is restlessness. There is doubt. This recognition itself begins to dissolve their power over you. You see them clearly as temporary mental states, not permanent truths about reality or yourself. The story of Bankei and natural peace. Bankei was a 17th century Zen master who taught that everyone is born with the unborn Buddha mind, a natural state of peace and clarity that we don't have to create or achieve, but only recognize and stop covering over. A student once complained to him, "Master, I have a terrible temper that I cannot control. No matter how hard I try, anger keeps arising. Can you help me get rid of this anger?" Bankei replied, "That sounds serious. Show me this anger right now, and I will help you remove it." The student said, "I can't show it to you right now. It only appears when something triggers it." "Then it is not part of your original nature," Bankei said.
If it were part of you, you could show it to me any time, but your anger only appears temporarily when certain conditions arise. Your original nature is the awareness that remains constant, whether anger is present or not. That awareness has never been angry. That is your true self. This teaching points to a radical recognition. Our difficult emotions, our anxious thoughts, our problematic patterns, none of these are who we fundamentally are. They are weather patterns moving through the sky of awareness. The sky is never damaged by the weather. The sun is always shining above the clouds, even when we can't see it. As you rest tonight, can you identify less with the changing contents of your mind, the worries, the restlessness, the commentary, and rest more as the awareness that notices all of this? That awareness is inherently peaceful. It is your unborn Buddha mind, always present, always available, always at peace. The practice of surrender. In spiritual practice, surrender is often misunderstood as giving up or becoming passive. But true surrender is not weakness, it is the deepest strength. It is the recognition that some things are beyond our control and the wisdom to stop exhausting ourselves fighting reality. There is a prayer that captures this wisdom. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. As you prepare for sleep, what are you trying to control that is not actually within your control? You cannot force yourself to fall asleep. You cannot command your mind to stop thinking. You cannot make tomorrow's challenges disappear through tonight's worry. But you can choose how you relate to this moment. You can choose to be kind to yourself rather than harsh. You can choose to focus on breath rather than worries. You can choose to release rather than grasp. These choices are within your power. Surrender is saying yes to what is, while still taking wise action where action is possible. It is relaxing into this moment while trusting that you will meet the next moment when it comes. It is releasing the burden of trying to control what cannot be controlled. Can you practice surrender tonight? Can you say, I release my grip on how this night should go. I open to how it actually is. I trust that I am held by something larger than my small self, that I don't have to manage everything, that I can rest in the great flow of life. This surrender is not defeat. It is coming home to the peace that is always available when we stop fighting reality. The teaching of the 3 marks of existence. The Buddha taught that all conditioned phenomena share 3 characteristics: impermanence, anicca, suffering or unsatisfactory, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. Understanding these deeply leads to wisdom and freedom. We have already explored impermanence, the truth that everything changes, nothing lasts forever. This truth can be sad when we think of losing what we love, but it is also liberating when we recognize that difficult experiences are also temporary. We have touched on dukkha, the subtle unsatisfactory, even in pleasant experiences, because we know they won't last, and the obvious suffering in painful experiences. The path to freedom begins with acknowledging this truth honestly, rather than pretending everything is always fine. The 3rd mark is non-self, perhaps the most subtle and profound. It is the recognition that what we call self is not a fixed, permanent entity, but a constantly changing process. The self you think you are is actually a collection of temporary components: body, sensations, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, all in constant flux. This teaching is not nihilistic. It doesn't mean you don't exist. It means you are not as solid, separate, and permanent as you think. You are more like a river, constantly flowing, constantly new, while maintaining a recognizable pattern. The river is real, but it is process, not thing. Why does this matter for sleep and peace? because so much of our suffering comes from defending a self that is not as solid as we imagine. We worry about our reputation, our identity, our story. We take things personally. We react to threats to our self-image. But if the self is not fixed, if it is fluid and process-like, there is less to defend. Criticism cannot damage your essential nature. Failure cannot define you permanently. You are always becoming, always capable of change, always fresh and new. Tonight, can you hold your sense of self a bit more lightly? Can you release the burden of being someone in particular and simply be awareness presence, observing the flow of experience without identification? This is profound rest. Not just rest for the body, but rest from the exhausting project of being a separate, defended self. The story of the hermit and the brigands. A hermit lived peacefully in a small cave in the mountains. One day, a group of bandits arrived at his cave, having heard he might have valuables hidden. They demanded he give them everything he owned. The hermit invited them to search the cave. "Take whatever you find," he said calmly. "I have no attachment to possessions." The bandits searched thoroughly, but found nothing but a begging bowl and a worn blanket. Frustrated, they knocked the hermit to the ground and began to beat him, venting their anger at finding nothing to steal. Through the whole ordeal, the hermit remained peaceful, not crying out or begging for mercy. Finally, the bandits stopped, disturbed by his lack of response. "Old man, why don't you resist? Why don't you at least cry out in pain?" The hermit looked at them with compassion. "Pain is inevitable when struck, but suffering is optional. I choose not to suffer. You can take my belongings, you can injure my body, but you cannot take my peace unless I give it to you, and that I will not give." The bandits were shaken. They had power over his possessions and body, but his mind remained beyond their reach. One by one, they bowed to him and left, their hearts changed by encountering someone truly free. This story teaches that our deepest freedom cannot be taken from us. External circumstances can be difficult, even painful, but our inner response remains our choice. We can be physically uncomfortable, yet mentally at peace. We can be challenged by circumstances while remaining unshaken in our core being. Tonight, perhaps you...
Part 8. Whispers of Wisdom. The Teaching of Mudita, Sympathetic Joy. In the Buddhist tradition, mudita is the practice of feeling joy in others' happiness and success. This might seem easy, but for many of us, it is actually quite challenging. We often feel competitive, envious, or diminished by others' good fortune. But mudita teaches that joy is not a limited resource. Someone else's happiness does not diminish the happiness available to you. In fact, when you practice feeling genuinely happy for others, you multiply the joy in the world and in your own heart. This practice extends to feeling joy even in your own successes and pleasant experiences. Many of us deflect compliments, minimize our achievements, or feel guilty for feeling good. But mudita includes celebrating your own life, appreciating your own positive qualities, acknowledging your own progress. As you lie here tonight, can you recall something good that happened today? Perhaps someone shared good news with you, or you witnessed a moment of beauty, or you yourself accomplished something. Can you let yourself feel genuine joy about this without immediately rushing to the next concern? Can you also reflect on good things happening to people you care about and feel happiness for them? When you practice mudita, you train your heart to expand rather than contract, to include rather than exclude, to celebrate rather than compare. This practice helps with sleep because it shifts your focus from problems and worries to appreciation and joy. It reminds you that even when challenges exist, good things are also happening. Both are true. Where you place your attention is your choice.
The story of Yoka Daishi's enlightenment. A yoga scholar who had studied for years, mastering numerous texts and teachings, he considered himself very knowledgeable about the Dharma. One day, he visited the sixth patriarch of Zen, Huineng, intending to engage in philosophical debate. When Yoka arrived at the monastery, he walked around the patriarch 3 times, struck the ground with his staff, and stood there proudly, waiting for acknowledgement of his spiritual attainment. The patriarch looked at him calmly and said, "A monk should display the 3,000 dignities and 80,000 refined behaviors. Where do you come from with such arrogance?" Yoka immediately responded, "Birth and death is the great matter. All things are impermanent and constantly disappearing." "Why don't you realize the birthless and deathless state where nothing appears or disappears?" the patriarch asked. In that instant, Yoka's intellectual understanding dropped away. He experienced directly what he had only known conceptually. He bowed deeply to the patriarch, saying, "I have understood intellectually for years, but now I realize directly. Thank you for showing me the difference." This story points to the gap between knowing about truth and experiencing it directly. You can know intellectually that you should relax, that worry doesn't help, that peace is available, but direct experience is different. It comes not through more thinking, but through dropping thinking and simply being present. Tonight, don't think about relaxation. Don't think about peace. Simply let your awareness rest in direct experience, the feeling of breath, the sensation of body, the present moment exactly as it is. This is direct knowing, beyond concepts and ideas. The practice of contemplating death. In many Buddhist traditions, practitioners regularly contemplate death, not in a morbid way, but as a powerful reminder of life's preciousness and impermanence. Death is the most certain thing about life. Every person who has ever lived has died or will die. You will die. Everyone you love will die. This is not pessimism, this is truth. But this truth, rather than making life meaningless, it makes it incredibly precious. Because time is limited, each moment becomes valuable. Because life will end, we are motivated not to waste it on petty concerns, grudges, or endless worry. The Buddha taught that remembering death helps us live more fully, love more openly, and appreciate more deeply. It helps us distinguish what truly matters from what doesn't. It helps us forgive more readily and hold resentments more lightly. As you lie down to sleep each night, you are practicing a small death, a letting go of the day, of control, of consciousness. Sleep is trust, it is surrender, it is accepting temporary non-existence. In this way, good sleep is good practice for the ultimate letting go. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, remember, this day will never come again. These exact moments are utterly unique. Can you fully let them go? Can you release your grip on today, trusting that tomorrow will bring what it brings? Can you practice this small death with grace and peace? The teaching of right effort. In the Buddhist Eightfold Path, right effort is essential. But what makes effort right? It is not about trying harder or pushing more. Right effort has 4 aspects, and understanding them helps us practice wisely. The first aspect is preventing unwholesome mental states from arising. This means not deliberately cultivating anger, greed, or delusion. For sleep, it means not engaging in activities before bed that agitate the mind, like reading disturbing news, engaging in conflicts, or consuming stimulating content. The second aspect is abandoning unwholesome states that have already arisen. When you notice you're caught in worry or resentment, you gently let it go. You don't fight it or suppress it, but you also don't feed it with continued attention. You acknowledge it and return to your anchor, the breath, the body, the present moment. The third aspect is cultivating wholesome mental states that haven't yet arisen. When you deliberately develop calm, concentration, loving kindness, and equanimity, as you prepare for sleep, you might practice gratitude, recall peaceful moments from the day, or generate warm wishes for yourself and others. The fourth aspect is maintaining and developing wholesome states that have already arisen. When peace arises, even briefly, you notice it and allow it to continue. You don't immediately jump to the next thing. You rest in peace when it appears, nurturing it with your attention. Right effort in the context of sleep means creating conditions that support rest without becoming anxious about it. It means gently guiding the mind toward peace without forcing or straining. It is like tending a garden. You prepare the soil, plant seeds, water regularly, but you don't pull on the plants to make them grow faster. The story of the flower petals. A student asked her meditation teacher, "How will I know when I've made progress in my practice?" The teacher took her to the monastery garden, which was filled with blooming flowers. "Do you see these flowers?" she asked. "Yes, they're beautiful." Notice how effortlessly the petals open. The flower doesn't strain or struggle. It doesn't worry whether it's blooming correctly. It simply responds to warmth and light, opening naturally when conditions are right. Your practice is like this, the teacher continued. Don't force yourself to bloom. Create the right conditions, regular practice, patience, self-compassion, and trust the natural unfolding. And remember, you are already worthy, already complete, regardless of how far you think you've progressed. As you lie tonight, can you be like the flower? Can you stop forcing yourself to bloom into the perfect state of relaxation or sleep? Can you simply be present with where you are right now, trusting that this is exactly where you need to be? The teaching of the Four Noble Truths. The Buddha's first teaching after his enlightenment were the Four Noble Truths. These truths form the foundation of all Buddhist practice, and understanding them deeply transforms how we relate to our experience. The first noble truth we have already explored. Suffering exists. It is part of life. Denying it or pretending otherwise only creates more suffering, but acknowledging it honestly is the first step towards freedom. The second noble truth identifies the origin of suffering. It is craving, clinging, attachment. We suffer when we desperately want things to be different from how they are. We suffer when we cling to what is pleasant, trying to make it last forever. We suffer when we push away what is unpleasant, trying to make it disappear. This constant pushing and pulling exhausts us and creates suffering. The third noble truth is the possibility of the end of suffering. This is not a distant theoretical possibility, but a reality available in this very moment. When craving ceases, suffering ceases. When we stop fighting reality, peace arises naturally. The end of suffering is not something we have to create or achieve. It is what naturally reveals itself when we stop creating suffering. Tonight, you can work with these truths directly. Notice any suffering present, perhaps restlessness, worry, or physical discomfort. Acknowledge it.
The monk sat silently, completely present, not trying to demonstrate or explain anything. The master smiled and nodded. You have heard it. This story teaches that some things cannot be grasped by the thinking mind. The more you try to figure them out, the more they elude you. Sometimes the answer comes not through more effort, but through letting go of effort. Not through more thinking, but through stopping thinking. Sleep is like this. The harder you try to make it happen, the more it escapes. But when you stop trying, when you simply rest in presence without agenda, sleep naturally comes. Or if it doesn't come, you find that simple rest itself is restorative. The practice of loving-kindness meditation extended. Earlier, we touched on loving-kindness meditation. Now let us practice it more fully as a preparation for deep rest. This practice, called metta bhavana in Pali, is one of the most powerful tools for cultivating peace and goodwill. Begin with yourself. Picture yourself as you are right now, lying here, seeking rest and peace. With genuine warmth, offer yourself these traditional phrases. May I be safe from inner and outer harm. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be healthy and strong. May I live with ease. Repeat these phrases slowly, letting their meaning sink into your heart. Feel the warmth of wishing yourself well. You deserve this kindness. You deserve this care. Now bring to mind someone you love dearly, perhaps a family member, a dear friend, a beloved teacher. Picture them clearly. Feel the love you have for them. Now extend the same wishes to them. May you be safe from inner and outer harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. May you live with ease. Let these wishes flow from your heart to theirs. Feel the warmth of caring for their well-being. Next, bring to mind someone neutral, perhaps someone you see regularly but don't know well, the person who delivers your mail, a cashier at a store you frequent, a neighbor you pass on the street. Recognize that this person, like you, seeks happiness and freedom from suffering. Offer them the same phrases. May you be safe from inner and outer harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. May you live with ease. Notice how it feels to extend kindness to someone you neither love nor dislike. Now, if you feel able, bring to mind someone difficult, someone who has hurt you, irritated you, or challenged you. This part can be difficult, so be gentle with yourself. You're not condoning their harmful actions. You're simply recognizing their humanity, their struggle, their own wish for happiness. If this feels too difficult, that's okay. Perhaps start with someone only mildly difficult. Offer the phrases. May you be safe from inner and outer harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. May you live with ease. Notice that wishing others well doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't diminish the well-being available to you. In fact, it expands your heart and increases your own peace. Finally, expand your awareness to include all beings everywhere, people in your city, your country, across the world. Include animals, insects, all forms of life. Recognize the vast interconnected web of beings, all seeking happiness, all avoiding suffering. Extend your wishes to all. May all beings be safe from inner and outer harm. May all beings be happy and peaceful. May all beings be healthy and strong. May all beings live with ease. Rest in this expansive awareness, this vast field of kindness. You are not separate from this great community of beings. Your peace contributes to the peace of all. Your practice benefits everyone. The teaching of beginner's mind. Shunryu Suzuki Roshi, the Zen master who helped bring Zen Buddhism to America, taught, in the beginner's mind there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind there are few. The expert knows so much that they cannot see what is actually here. They see through filters of accumulated knowledge, expectations, and assumptions. The beginner, knowing nothing, sees with fresh eyes. Everything is new, interesting, full of possibility. We often approach sleep as experts. We think we know exactly how we sleep, what our patterns are, what our problems are. I'm someone who can't fall asleep easily. I always wake up at 3 a.m. I need at least 8 hours or I can't function. These expert opinions about ourselves become self-fulfilling prophecies. What if you approached tonight with beginner's mind? What if you didn't know how you sleep? What if you released all your ideas about what will happen and simply met this night with fresh, open awareness?
Beginner's mind is not about forgetting everything you know. It's about holding your knowledge lightly, staying open to new experiences, being willing to be surprised. It's about curiosity rather than certainty. As you settle into rest, can you be curious about this moment? What does your breath feel like right now, in this exact moment, not based on memories of past breaths, but what does your body feel like right now, not based on how you think it should feel or how it usually feels, but actually right now? This fresh, curious attention is itself relaxing. When you're truly curious, you can't simultaneously be anxious. Curiosity is open, spacious, interested. Anxiety is contracted, urgent, feared. Choose curiosity. The story of Joshu and the oak tree. A monk asked the Zen master Joshu, "What is the meaning of Bodhidharma coming from the West?" This is a traditional way of asking about the fundamental meaning of Buddhism. Joshu replied, "The oak tree in the garden." The monk was confused. What could an oak tree have to do with the deep meaning of Buddhism? But Joshu's answer points to something profound. The meaning is not hidden in complex philosophy or secret teachings. It is right here, directly present in ordinary reality. The oak tree in the garden is completely itself, fully expressing its nature without confusion or doubt. It doesn't try to be anything other than what it is. It stands in its truth, expressing its nature fully. You too are completely yourself, fully expressing your nature in this moment. You don't need to be anyone else or anywhere else. This moment, this body, this mind, this experience, this is your oak tree, your truth, your complete expression. As you rest, can you be like the oak tree? Can you simply be what you are, where you are, without apology or addition? Your experience right now, whatever it is your truth. It doesn't need to be fixed or changed to be acceptable. It already is what it is, completely. The teaching of suchness. In Buddhist philosophy, there is a concept called tathata, or suchness, things as they are without our mental additions, interpretations, or judgments. A flower is such as it is. A mountain is such as it is. This moment is such as it is. We spend most of our time not experiencing suchness, but experiencing our ideas about things. We don't see the flower, we see our judgment of it as pretty or ugly, our memory of other flowers, our thought about whether it will last. We don't experience the moment, we experience our story about whether it's a good or bad moment, whether we like it or wish it were different. Suchness is what remains when all these mental additions are removed. It is direct, immediate experience before the mind labels, judges, or interprets. Tonight, can you experience the suchness of this moment? Not, I am trying to sleep and it's not working, but simply the sensations, sounds, and awareness that are actually here. Not, my mind should be quieter, but simply the mind being as it is. Not, this should be different, but simply this as it is. Suchness includes everything, the pleasant and unpleasant, the easy and difficult, the comfortable and uncomfortable. It is reality before we divide it into categories of good and bad, acceptable and unacceptable. When you rest in suchness, you rest in reality, and reality, met directly without resistance, is always workable. It's our ideas about reality that create most of our suffering, not reality itself. The practice of noting. Noting is a simple mindfulness technique that can be helpful when the mind is particularly busy. Instead of trying to stop thoughts, you simply note them as they arise, then return to the breath. When a thought about tomorrow arises, you note planning or thinking and return to the breath. When a worry appears, you note worrying and return to the breath.
Part 9. The Deepening Night. The Teaching of the Paramita of Patience.
We explored the 6 paramitas earlier, but let us go deeper into patience, kshanti in Sanskrit, as it is particularly relevant for the practice of rest. There are 3 kinds of patience taught in Buddhism. The first is patience with difficulties and discomfort. This is the ability to bear hardship without becoming bitter or reactive. When sleep doesn't come easily, when the body is uncomfortable, when the mind is restless, can you bear this without adding layers of frustration and resistance? The second kind is patience with people. This includes being patient with others when they are difficult, but also being patient with yourself. Can you extend to yourself the same patience you would offer a child learning to walk? They fall many times, but you don't criticize them. You simply help them up and encourage them to try again. Can you be this patient with yourself as you practice rest? The third kind is patience in understanding the Dharma. The teachings take time to integrate. You won't master meditation in a night or understand emptiness through a single explanation. The path unfolds gradually in its own time. Can you be patient with your process, trusting that you are exactly where you need to be? This moment, as you lie here, is your opportunity to practice patience. Not the gritted teeth, forced patience of endurance, but the soft, allowing patience of a parent watching a flower bloom. It will happen in its own time. Your only job is to be present, to provide the right conditions, to trust the process. The story of the full moon. A student asked her teacher, "When will I experience enlightenment?" The teacher took her outside on a cloudy night. "Do you see the moon?" she asked. The student looked up. "No, the clouds are covering it." "But the moon is there, is it not? Even though you cannot see it, it is fully present, completely whole, shining its light." "Yes," the student agreed. Your awakened nature is like this moon. It is always present, always complete, always shining. Sometimes clouds of confusion, doubt, or distraction cover it. But the clouds are not the moon. They are temporary, while the moon remains constant. Your practice is not to create the moon, but to recognize that it is always there. The clouds will pass, as clouds do. The moon never left. This teaching addresses one of the most common frustrations on the spiritual path, the feeling that we haven't achieved anything, that we're not making progress, that awakening is somewhere far away. But what if nothing needs to be achieved? What if the peace you seek is already fully present, just temporarily obscured by passing clouds of thought and emotion? Tonight, beneath whatever clouds of worry, restlessness, or discomfort are present, your true nature shines constant and complete. You don't need to create peace. You only need to recognize that it has never actually left. The clouds pass through the sky, but the sky itself remains unchanged, vast and spacious, and always at peace. The practice of body relaxation through tension and release. Sometimes the direct path to relaxation is through intentional tension. This practice involves deliberately tensing muscle groups, then releasing them, helping the body remember what relaxation feels like. Start with your feet. Curl your toes and flex your feet, creating tension. Hold for a few seconds, noticing the feeling of tension. Then release suddenly, letting the feet go completely soft. Notice the contrast, the feeling of release. Move to your calves. Tense these muscles, pointing your toes upward. Hold the tension, then release. Feel the softness that follows. Continue up through your body, thighs, buttocks,
abdomen, chest, hands, arms, shoulders, neck, and face. For each area, create deliberate tension, hold it briefly, and then let it go completely. This practice works because it helps you notice the difference between tension and relaxation. Often we hold tension without realizing it. By intentionally creating it, we become more aware of it and then more able to release it. It also tires the muscles slightly, making them naturally want to rest afterward. And it gives your busy mind something to do, a task to focus on, which can be easier than trying to force it to be quiet. After you've gone through your whole body, lie still and notice the overall feeling of relaxation. Your body knows how to release. You've just reminded it. The teaching of interdependence. The Buddha taught that nothing exists independently. Everything arises in dependence on conditions. You exist because of your parents, who existed because of their parents, in an unbroken chain stretching back to the beginning of life. You exist because of the food you eat, the air you breathe, the water you drink. The boundaries between you and not you are much more fluid than they appear. This teaching of interdependence, pratitya samutpada in Sanskrit, has profound implications. It means you are not alone, separate and isolated. You are part of an infinite web of relationships. Your well-being affects others, and their well-being affects you. It also means that your current state is not permanent or inherent to you. It arose based on conditions. If sleep is difficult tonight, this is not because you are inherently an insomniac. It is because of conditions, perhaps caffeine consumed earlier, stress from the day, a loud neighbor, or patterns of thinking developed over time. The good news about interdependence is that conditions can change. You can create new conditions that support rest, a regular sleep schedule, a peaceful environment, calming practices before bed. As conditions change, so does your experience. Tonight, recognize that you are not fighting this battle alone. You are supported by countless conditions, many of which you're not even aware of. The people who built your home, who made your bed, who grew your food, all of these are supporting your rest right now. You are held in an invisible web of care and connection. The story of Ikkyu and the temple bell. Ikkyu was a 15th century Zen master known for his unconventional teaching methods. One evening, as the temple bell was being rung to call monks to meditation, Ikkyu stood outside, listening intently. A student approached and asked, "Master, aren't you coming to meditation?" Ikkyu held up his hand for silence and continued listening. When the bell stopped ringing, he said, "I was meditating. Were you?" The student was confused. "But meditation happens in the hall, sitting on cushions." Ikkyu smiled. "Meditation is not confined to a specific place or posture. When I listen completely, becoming one with the sound, forgetting myself entirely, that is meditation. When you sit on your cushion thinking about dinner or your to-do list, that is not meditation. The form doesn't matter. The quality of presence does." This teaching frees us from thinking that practice only happens in specific circumstances. You don't need to be sitting on a meditation cushion to practice presence. You don't need special conditions to find peace. Right here, right now, in this ordinary moment of lying in bed, you can practice complete presence. This is meditation. This is practice. This is the path. The teaching of the kleshas. In Buddhist psychology, the kleshas are mental afflictions or poisons that disturb the mind and create suffering. The three root kleshas are greed, aversion, and delusion. All other negative mental states arise from these three. Greed includes not just material greed, but any form of grasping, wanting, or addiction. In the context of sleep, greed might manifest as desperation for sleep, grasping at rest, or wanting this moment to be different from what it is. Aversion is pushing away, rejecting, or resisting what is present. With sleep, this might be frustration with wakefulness, anger at thoughts that arise, or resistance to discomfort. Delusion is fundamental ignorance or confusion about the nature of reality. It includes not seeing things clearly, being caught in false beliefs, or misunderstanding our experience. The antidotes to these kleshas are generosity, the opposite of greed, loving kindness, the opposite of aversion, and wisdom, the opposite of delusion. When you notice yourself grasping at sleep, practice generosity. Be generous with yourself. Allow yourself to rest without demanding results. When you notice resistance to your experience, practice loving kindness. Meet your restlessness with compassion rather than harshness. When you notice confusion or false beliefs, practice wisdom. See clearly what is actually true rather than what you fear might be true. Working with the kleshas is not about eliminating them through force. They are natural human experiences. The practice is to recognize them when they arise, understand them as temporary mental states rather than truth, and respond with wisdom rather than reactivity. The practice of gratitude revisited. We touched on gratitude earlier, but let us go deeper now. Gratitude is not just about listing things you're thankful for, though that is valuable. At its deepest level, gratitude is a way of being, a fundamental orientation toward life that says yes to existence itself. Even in difficulty, even in pain, there can be gratitude. You might be grateful for your capacity to feel, for being alive to have experiences, for the lessons that challenges bring. You might be grateful for your body's resilience, for your mind's ability to imagine better futures, for your heart's capacity to care. As you rest tonight, can you find gratitude for this moment of rest itself? How many beings on earth right now do not have a safe place to sleep, a roof over their heads, a bed to lie in? How many throughout history have longed for what you have right now, this simple opportunity to rest in relative comfort and safety? Gratitude shifts our focus from what is lacking to what is present. It helps us see the abundance that already exists rather than fixating on scarcity. And this shift itself is relaxing. When we recognize that we have enough, that we are enough, that this moment is enough, we can finally rest. Let gratitude fill your heart, not as something forced or artificial, but as genuine recognition of the gifts of this moment. Breathe in gratitude. Exhale peace.
Story 12. The Monk Who Found His Smile. There was once a young monk named Tenzo who was responsible for preparing meals in a large monastery. He was diligent, hard-working, and took his role very seriously. Perhaps too seriously. He would wake before dawn, carefully selecting each vegetable, meticulously preparing each grain of rice, ensuring every meal was perfect. But Tenzo never smiled. His face was always stern, concentrated, heavy with the weight of responsibility. The other monks noticed this but said nothing, respecting his dedication. One day, a traveling master named Ryokan visited the monastery.
Ryokan was known for his joy, his playfulness, his childlike delight in simple things. During his stay, he spent time in the kitchen watching Tenzo work. "You cook with such care," Ryokan observed, "each movement precise, each ingredient honored." Tenzo bowed, pleased at the recognition. "Preparing food for the Sangha is sacred work. I give it my full attention." "Yes," said Ryokan, "but where is your joy?" Tenzo looked confused. "Joy? Master, this is serious work. I have no time for joy." Ryokan picked up a carrot from the cutting board. "Look at this carrot," he said. "See its bright orange color? Smell its fresh earthiness. Feel its firm texture." He took a bite of the raw carrot and crunched it loudly, grinning with delight. "Taste how sweet it is." Tenzo was scandalized. "Master, that carrot was for tonight's soup." Ryokan laughed. "And now it's in my belly, and it was delicious. Tell me, Tenzo, why do you cook?" To nourish the monks, to support their practice." "And what is their practice?" "To wake up, to realize their true nature, to find joy and freedom." "Ah," said Ryokan, "so you cook to help them find joy, but you yourself have no joy while cooking. How can you give what you don't have?" Tenzo stood in silence, struck by this simple question. Ryokan continued, "You think you honor the practice by being serious and grim, but the vegetables don't need your grimness. The rice doesn't require your worry. What they need is your full presence, yes, but presence includes joy. Mindfulness is not heavy, it's light. It delights in what is." "But Master," Tenzo protested, "if I'm enjoying myself, won't I become careless? Won't I lose my precision?" Ryokan smiled. "Watch." He took Tenzo's knife and began cutting vegetables. His movements were relaxed, fluid, almost like a dance, but each slice was perfect, precise, even, exactly the right thickness. And as he cut, he hummed a little tune, occasionally laughing at nothing in particular. "You see," said Ryokan, "joy and precision are not enemies. In fact, when you're tight and grim, you're more likely to make mistakes because you're tense. But when you're relaxed and happy, your natural skill can flow freely. Joy doesn't diminish the sacred, it reveals it." From that day forward, Tenzo's practice transformed. He still woke early. He still carefully selected ingredients and prepared meals with full attention, but now he smiled as he worked. He hummed songs. He delighted in the colors of vegetables, the aroma of cooking rice, the satisfaction of a meal well prepared. The other monks noticed that not only was he happier, but somehow the food tasted better too, as if his joy had become an invisible ingredient in every dish. This story teaches us that spiritual practice need not be heavy, grim, or solemn. Yes, we approach it with sincerity and dedication, but we can also approach it with lightness and joy. In fact, joy is a sign that we're on the right path. The Buddha didn't teach so that people would be more serious and burdened. He taught so they could be free, light, happy. Many people make the same mistake Tenzo made. They think if something is important, they must approach it with heavy seriousness. They practice meditation with furrowed brows. They try to be mindful with tense concentration. They pursue enlightenment with grim determination. But this creates more suffering, not less. The Dalai Lama, one of the most respected Buddhist teachers alive, is known for his constant laughter, his playfulness, his jokes. This isn't despite his deep realization, it's because of it. The deeper you go in practice, the lighter you become, not heavier. As you lie here, notice if you're approaching even rest with too much seriousness. Are you grim about relaxing, tense about letting go, heavy about sleep? Can you find some lightness here? Can you smile at the earnestness with which you've been trying to sleep? Can you laugh at the absurdity of the thinking mind that won't stop thinking about not thinking? Let there be some play in your practice, some ease, some humor, some joy. This doesn't diminish the profundity of what you're doing. It enhances it. You're not just resting, you're delighting in rest. You're not just breathing, you're appreciating each breath. You're not just being present, you're enjoying presence itself. The path has room for both tears and laughter, for both solemnity and silliness, for both deep reverence and childlike play. Don't choose one and exclude the other. Let your practice be as full and varied as life itself. And in this moment, let there be joy, quiet, simple, effortless joy in simply being alive, being here, being yourself.
Story 13. The Lesson of the Broken Cup. There was once a Zen master who owned a beautiful teacup. It was ancient, delicate, painted with exquisite cherry blossoms. Visitors often admired it, and the master clearly treasured it, using it daily in his tea ceremony. One day, a clumsy student knocked the cup from the table. It fell to the floor and shattered into dozens of pieces. The student was horrified. He fell to his knees, apologizing profusely, expecting anger or disappointment from his teacher. But the master simply looked at the broken pieces and said calmly, "Ah, there it is." The student was confused. "There what is, master?" "The brokenness," replied the master. "It was always there, from the moment this cup was created. I simply couldn't see it until now. Every created thing carries its own destruction within it. This cup was always broken. I just couldn't see it while it was still whole." The master gathered the pieces carefully, not with sadness, but with a kind of acceptance, even appreciation. "Now I can see the cup as it truly always was, temporary, fragile, already on its way to dust. Before, I was living in illusion, believing the cup was permanent. Now I see reality." The student still looked distressed. "But master, you loved that cup." "Yes, and I love these pieces too. The cup's nature hasn't changed, only its form has. And my love doesn't depend on form. I loved the wholeness when it was here, and I accept the brokenness now that it's here. Both are the cup. Both are impermanence showing itself." He paused, then added, "Actually, I'm grateful to you. You've given me a teaching. You've shown me my own attachment. I thought I was detached from material things, but when the cup fell, I felt a small contraction in my chest. This shows me I still have work to do. Thank you for this lesson." The student learned something profound that day, not just about impermanence, but about how to hold things lightly, how to love without clinging, how to appreciate without attachment. Years later, that student became a teacher himself. He would tell his own students, "When you love something, remember, it's already broken. This isn't a pessimistic thought, it's a liberating one. When you remember that everything is temporary, you stop taking things for granted. You appreciate what's here while it's here, and when it's gone, you can let it go without destroying yourself with grief." This teaching, "Remember it's already broken," is one of the most powerful practices for developing equanimity and reducing suffering. When you look at something beautiful, something you love, and remember its impermanence, several things happen. First, your appreciation deepens. You savor it more fully, knowing it won't last forever. The cherry blossoms are more beautiful because they only bloom for 2 weeks. The sunset is more precious because it will be gone in minutes. Your loved ones are more dear because your time with them is limited. Second, you hold more lightly. You don't grasp as tightly. You don't become desperate to keep things exactly as they are. You can be present with what is, rather than constantly worried about losing it. Third, when loss inevitably comes, you're prepared. Not that you won't grieve. Grief is natural and healthy, but you won't be completely shattered. You knew this was coming. Everything that comes together falls apart. Everyone born dies. Everything created is destroyed. This isn't pessimism, it's reality. Think about your own life. What are you holding on to too tightly? What are you treating as if it will last forever? Your youth, your health, your career, your possessions, your relationships?
All of these are already broken. All of them are already on their way to dissolution. This isn't meant to depress you, it's meant to wake you up, to help you appreciate them now while they're still here. And here's a deeper truth. Not only is everything temporary, but you are temporary too. This self you think is so solid and permanent is actually changing every moment. The you of yesterday is gone. The you of tomorrow hasn't arrived. There's only this you right now, and even this one is already changing, already dissolving, already becoming someone else. When you truly understand impermanence, you stop trying to freeze life in place. You stop trying to hold on to good moments forever or push away difficult moments permanently. You become more fluid, more adaptable, more at peace with the flowing, changing nature of existence. The Master's response to the broken cup is a model for how to meet all losses, with acceptance, with gratitude for what was, with recognition of the truth of impermanence, without adding suffering through resistance or regret. The cup was always broken. We just couldn't see it. Your body is already broken. It's aging every day, moving towards its dissolution. But this doesn't make it less precious. It makes it more so. These eyes that see, these ears that hear, this heart that beats, all temporary, all already on their way to their end. Love them while they're here. Use them well. Appreciate them fully. As you rest here tonight, let go of grasping. Let go of trying to hold on to anything. Youth, health, relationships, achievements, even consciousness itself. Let everything be temporary, including this waking state. It too is already broken, already dissolving into sleep. And that's perfect. That's exactly how it should be. Nothing to hold, nothing to keep, nothing to preserve. Just this flowing, changing, temporary dance of existence, here for a brief moment, then gone like a dream. And in seeing this clearly, without flinching, there is a deep peace, a profound acceptance, a joyful appreciation for each moment as it arises and passes away. Buddhist Teaching 7, Dependent Origin, 164 to 171. The Buddha's most profound realization was dependent origin, praticya samutpada in Sanskrit. This teaching reveals how all phenomena arise in dependence on causes and conditions. Nothing exists independently. Everything is interconnected in a vast web of causation. The Buddha traced a specific chain of dependent origin to explain how suffering arises. From ignorance comes formations. From formations comes consciousness. From consciousness comes name and form. From name and form come the 6 sense bases. From the 6 sense bases comes contact. From contact comes feeling. From feeling comes craving. From craving comes clinging. From clinging comes becoming. From becoming comes birth. From birth comes aging and death, sorrow and suffering. This might sound abstract, but it describes the process we go through constantly. Let's trace it with a simple example. You're lying here trying to sleep. You hear a sound, perhaps a car passing outside. That's contact, your ear meeting a sound. This produces a feeling, perhaps slightly unpleasant because you want quiet. From that unpleasant feeling comes craving. You want the sound to stop. From craving comes clinging. You fixate on the sound, get annoyed by it, build a story about how you can't sleep because of noise. This clinging creates more suffering. You're now tense, irritated, more awake than before. All because of dependent origin. But here's the liberating part. If you break the chain at any point, suffering doesn't arise. You can't control whether sounds happen, that's beyond you. But you can change what happens after contact. When you hear the sound, instead of immediately having an aversion, craving for it to stop, you can simply note it. Sound, hearing, no judgment, no story. The sound is just a sound. When you don't add craving or aversion, the chain is broken and suffering doesn't arise.
This is the power of mindfulness. It breaks the automatic chain of dependent origin. It creates a space between stimulus and response, a gap where you can choose differently. Without mindfulness, we're like machines, automatically reacting according to our conditioning. With mindfulness, we're free to respond with wisdom. Dependent origin also reveals the profound interconnectedness of all things. Nothing exists in isolation. This pillow under your head exists because of cotton plants, which exist because of soil, sun, and rain, which exist because of the Earth's position in the solar system, which exists because of countless cosmic events stretching back to the Big Bang. Everything depends on everything else. Your body exists because of your parents, which exist because of their parents stretching back through time, but also because of the food you ate today, which came from farms, which depend on farmers, trucks, stores, a vast network of interconnected systems. You are not separate from the world. You are a process that the entire universe is doing in this particular location. Even your thoughts depend on causes and conditions. A certain thought arises, not randomly, but because of your conditioning, your memories, your recent experiences, your current mood, your physical state, external stimuli. When you see thoughts as dependently origined rather than as my thoughts, you hold them more lightly. They're not you, they're phenomena arising based on conditions. This understanding brings both humility.
Story 14. The Monk and the Mother. A monk who had practiced meditation intensely for 20 years in a mountain monastery decided it was time to test his realization. He had achieved remarkable concentration, could sit in meditation for hours without moving, and believed he had conquered anger, attachment, and aversion. He decided to visit his elderly mother in the village to see if his practice held up in ordinary life. His mother welcomed him joyfully. She prepared his favorite foods, asked him countless questions about his practice, fussed over him like he was still a child. At first, the monk was patient, answering her questions with measured calm, eating mindfully, maintaining his meditative awareness. But as the days passed, his mother's habits began to irritate him. She chewed loudly. She repeated the same stories multiple times. She worried excessively about trivial things. She rearranged his things in his room. She gave him advice he didn't need. She woke him early in the morning with her noisy breakfast preparations. The monk found himself becoming annoyed, then irritated, then angry. His carefully cultivated peace began to crack. One morning, when his mother knocked on his door for the third time to ask if he wanted more tea, he snapped at her. "Mother, please, I need silence. You're constantly disturbing me." His mother's face fell. Hurt flashed in her eyes. She shuffled away quietly. The monk immediately felt terrible. He sat with his shame and his realization. 20 years in a monastery, and his own mother could undo his peace in a week. He went to find her. She was in the kitchen, wiping tears from her eyes while pretending to chop vegetables. He bowed deeply before her. "Mother, forgive me. I have been practicing meditation for 20 years, but I have learned more in this week with you than in all my time in the monastery." She looked at him confused. "What do you mean?" "In the monastery," he explained, "everything is arranged to support practice. The schedule, the silence, the routine, it's all designed to make meditation easy. I thought I had become patient, but I had only become accustomed to an environment that required no patience. I thought I had overcome anger, but I had only removed all the things that might trigger anger." He took his mother's hands in his. "Mother, you are my greatest teacher. You show me where my practice is real and where it's just a performance. You show me the difference between monastic peace and true peace. True peace remains undisturbed even when someone chews loudly or tells the same story twice or wakes you earlier than you'd like.
His mother smiled through her tears. "So I'm not a bad mother for disturbing your meditation?" "No, Mother, you're the best teacher I've ever had. You teach me about real compassion, not the easy compassion for silent meditators, but the difficult compassion for the people who actually need it. You teach me about real patience, not the passive waiting in a quiet room, but the active acceptance of real life with all its messiness and noise and repetition." The monk stayed with his mother for several months. It was harder than any retreat he'd ever done, but his practice deepened immeasurably. He learned to maintain presence while doing dishes, while having the same conversation for the fourth time, while being woken at dawn, while dealing with all the small irritations of ordinary family life. When he finally returned to the monastery, he was changed. He had discovered that true practice isn't about creating perfect conditions. It's about being present with conditions as they are. It's not about retreating from the world. It's about bringing awareness into the world. It's not about achieving some special state. It's about finding peace in every state. Years later, he would tell his students, "If you want to test your practice, don't go on another meditation retreat. Go visit your family. Spend a week with the people who know exactly how to push your buttons. If your peace survives that, then you're practicing correctly." This story teaches us that authentic practice isn't about achieving special states in controlled environments. It's about bringing presence, patience, and compassion into ordinary life, especially with the people closest to us, who often trigger us most. It's easy to be peaceful alone in a quiet room. It's easy to be compassionate towards strangers you'll never see again. The real test is, can you be patient with your family? Can you remain present when things don't go your way? Can you stay centered when life is messy, noisy, and unpredictable? This doesn't mean you should seek out irritation or put yourself in harmful situations, but it means recognizing that ordinary life, with all its imperfections, is not an obstacle to practice. It is the practice. Every annoyance is an opportunity to practice patience. Every difficulty is a chance to practice acceptance. Every person who triggers you is a teacher showing you where you still have work to do. As you lie here, perhaps you're annoyed at something. Maybe sounds outside, maybe discomfort in your body, maybe the fact that you're not asleep yet. Can you see these as teachers rather than obstacles? Can you practice with what is rather than demanding something different? The path to peace isn't about eliminating everything that disturbs you. That's impossible and would require complete isolation from life. The path is learning to remain undisturbed even when disturbances arise, not suppressing your reactions, but seeing them clearly, holding them gently, and choosing your response with wisdom. Your practice happens not only in moments of perfect calm, but especially in moments of difficulty, not only when everything goes right, but especially when things go wrong, not only in ideal conditions, but especially in messy, imperfect, ordinary conditions. This is where practice becomes real. This is where peace becomes genuine. This is where you discover what you've really learned.
Closing. The invitation to rest. And so, dear friend, we come to the end of these teachings and stories, though really there is no end. The path continues with each breath, each moment, each new day. You have been given many teachings tonight, many stories, many practices, but don't let them become a burden, another thing you have to do perfectly. Take what speaks to you and let the rest go. Return to the teachings that comfort you. Find your own way. The Buddha's final teaching was, work out your own salvation with diligence. No teacher, no book, no practice can walk the path for you. You must discover your own way. Trust your own experience. Find your own peace. But know that you are not alone.
Countless beings throughout history have walked this path before you. Countless beings walk it now, in this very moment, all over the world. And countless beings will walk it in the future. We are all connected in this great river of seeking and awakening. May you sleep peacefully tonight. May your rest be deep and restorative. May you wake refreshed and renewed, ready to meet the day with presence and compassion. May all beings be at peace. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings awaken to their true nature. And may you, dear friend, know that you are already whole, already complete, already home. Rest in this knowing, rest in this peace, rest in the eternal now. With infinite compassion and warmth, may you be well, may you be peaceful, may you be at ease. Breathe gently, let go, trust, rest. All is well, all has always been well, all will be well. Simply rest now, simply be, simply breathe. This moment is complete. You are complete. Rest, dear one. Rest in peace. May peace surround you. May peace fill you. May peace hold you through the night. Rest now. Rest.